Good evening, everyone. Good evening. The Durham Public Schools Board of Education monthly meeting is now in session. At this time, we wish to extend a warm welcome to everyone who's joining us this evening. The purpose of this meeting is to inform our parents, staff, and constituents about the work aligned with our mission to embrace, educate, and empower every student to innovate, to serve, and to lead. The interpreters for tonight are Martha Romo Iguiles and Marty Ramirez. Thank you all for taking the time to join us. The first moment on our agenda is the moment of silence. We'll start that at this time. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is celebration.
Evening, board members, Dr. Mabenga, DPS colleagues, and families. It brings me great joy to share with you this evening the reason why Durham Public Schools is an outstanding destination for learning and working. Simply put, it's because of our exceptional students and staff. Our celebrations this evening include the amazing accomplishments of our scholars and the teachers and staff who support them daily. We will begin with 2 Student of the Month presentations, followed by our deserving Teacher of the Month and Employee of the Month recognitions. We will also honor a DPS staff member with the coveted DPS Spark Pin. Next, we will honor our DPS AIG licensure recipients and conclude with 2 state-level recognitions of our DPS staff. At this time, please welcome Dr. Renita Griffin-Jordan, Principal of City of Medicine Academy, to introduce our first Student of the Month recipient.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Mabenga, district leadership, family and friends. I bring you greetings from the City of Medicine Academy, where we proudly recognize Joyce Matando as the Durham Public Schools September Student of the Month. Her teacher and National Honor Society advisor, Ms. Clark, shares that Joyce is an exemplar scholar who holds herself and others to high standards. Not only is she a member of the NHS chapter at City of Medicine, but she's also the president. She is leading in membership as far as HOSA, Future Health Professionals, and our SGA. Joyce ranks among the top in her class, carrying out the mission and vision of our early college by successfully dual enrolling in Durham Technical Community College. Recently, she co-founded a nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting homeless and impoverished members in her community. That is the loving, compassionate, and kind-hearted young lady that you will encounter. She's also gaining skills to conduct larger scale research projects. Her teacher, Ms. Tucson, shares that due to Joyce's curiosity, relevant extracurricular experiences, and a genuine interest in applied science, she is sure to excel as a scientific researcher. Speaking of research, Joyce was chosen to participate in the North Carolina ACS Project Seed program, where she conducted research over the summer at NC State University. She formally presented her research at the North Carolina Biotechnology Center in RTP. Her research focus was on the antibiotic resistance, which occurs when certain bacteria become immune to antibiotics, making them less effective. Joyce looked at the polyketides and the biosynthesis from other enzymes that will make antibiotic drugs more effective, efficient, and less costly. She ended the summer by attending the National American Chemical Society conference in California. Joyce is a beacon of hope and positivity to others and has a proven excellence at City of Medicine. We are proud to extend this honor to her. I am so proud of all that she has accomplished, all that she will accomplish in her future. And I'm honored and delighted to present to you the Durham Public Schools Student of the Month for September, CMA's very own Joyce Matando.
Hello, everyone. My name is Joyce, as she has mentioned. My time at City of Medicine has been there have been many trials and tribulations, but even though these has occurred, it has been a great and memorable experience that I'm going to cherish for years to come. It has helped me in many ways because in the future, I would like to become a physician. And I know that because of Dr. Jordan and my many memories that I have made at City of Medicine, that it's going to be something that I remember for a long time. Thank you.
Joyce, we are truly honored to celebrate you this evening. And from hearing from everything that your principal said, we know you are destined for greatness. To celebrate your accomplishment this evening, we have a few items for you, so please come forward. We have a certificate to acknowledge your Student of the Month recognition. We have a DPS Spark Pin, which is presented to those in our district who truly exemplify our core values, and we hope that you will wear this proudly. Our friends at Triangle E-Cycling want to make sure that you are ready for whatever comes your way, so they are presenting you with a laptop this evening. And we also have a special presentation from Matt Sears, Chief of Partnerships from the Durham Public Schools Foundation.
Good evening. The Durham Public Schools Foundation is dedicated to supporting and championing our DPS students, families, and staff. We are proud ongoing sponsors of the DPS Teacher of the Year program, DPS Building Services Employee Appreciation Celebration, DPS Convocation, and beginning this school year, the DPS Student of the Month program. The DPS Foundation believes that every child deserves well-funded, community-centered public schools rich in materials, human resources, and programming that supports the development of the whole child. We fight for those schools day in and day out in partnership with DPS, and we raise funds to do that work and to distribute to those efforts. DPSF sees our Students of the Month as examples of our Durham community and what happens when a combination of resources reach students, families, and school staff. We want to support your continued growth, Joyce, and hope you will use this $500 gift card to further your educational passions, whether they are academic, in the arts, college, or moving into the workforce. We're very proud of you and Durham Public Schools. Congratulations.
Joyce, if you would proceed forward, Dr. Griffin Jordan as well. If Joyce has family members that are here, we'd like to ask you to come forward to take a photo with Dr. Mabenga and then be congratulated by our Board of Education. Next, please welcome Lamont Dixon, Interim Principal of Durham School of Technology, for our next Student of the Month presentation.
Great evening to everyone, board members, Dr. Mabenga, and everyone who is a part of the DPS family. I would have to admit to Crystal Roberts that this put me in a tough situation. And that involves deciding which student to recognize for this award. I literally could have chosen from 95% of our seniors in the building. Either way, I would have been fine, wouldn't have gone wrong with the student that we decided upon. It really speaks to the wonderful students that we have at Durham School of Technology. It makes me proud to be the leader of that building each and every day. And this brings me to Mr. Mikael Archie, a young man we are honoring this evening. Mikael, who by the way has a twin brother who I can't tell the difference in physically or character-wise. They're both awesome young men. Mikael currently has a 3.0 grade point average. He has a 96 average in network engineering, so he can do a tune on your computer, right? He's a tremendous young man, beloved by all staff and a friend to everyone. He is a warm, soft-spoken, and kind-hearted young man. Mikael is also a spirited young man, and he is the fastest student at Durham School of Technology, okay? To further sum up this young man, I'd like to share our DST-5, which are our guiding principles. We ask that students treat one another with the utmost respect. We ask students to be resilient and commit to their academics 100%. We ask students to turn away from distractions and embrace opportunities. We ask students to be present and to be on time. And lastly, we ask students to be at the right place at the right time, doing the right thing. As it relates to students who embody these guiding principles, I give you Mr. Mikael Archie.
Good evening, everybody. As you all heard, my name is Mikael Archie. I'm a proud senior at Durham School of Technology, and I'm deeply honored to receive the Student of the Month award. I want to express my gratitude to the facility, my family, and my fellow students for their support. This recognition motivates me to continue working hard and making a positive impact in our school and community. Thank you for this incredible honor.
Congratulations, Mikhail. We are so excited for you, and it was an honor to hear about you and your journey at the Durham School of Technology and how you exemplify those core values each and every day. We are proud to have you as a representative of Durham Public Schools. You probably got a little highlight to the things that you are going to receive this evening, but don't worry, we have them just for you as well. Your official Student of the Month certificate, your DPS Spark Pin, which we hope that you will wear proudly around Durham School of Technology and throughout the Durham community. From Triangle E-Cycling, a laptop to make sure that you are powered for your future. And now, Mr. Matt Sears again.
Good evening. Congratulations. We want to support your continued growth, Mikhail, and hope that you will use this $500 gift card to further your educational passions, whether they are academic, in the arts, college, or moving into the workforce. We're very proud of you and Durham Public Schools. Congratulations.
At this time, please proceed forward for a photo with Dr. Pascal Mabenga. We know you have some family members here as well who would like to accompany you in that photo. At this time, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Michelle Hayes for our Teacher and Employee of the Month presentations.
Good evening. We're back to do the Teacher and Employee of the Month. So good evening, Chairman Umstead, members of the board, Dr. Mabinga, and cabinet members. I am pleased to restart our Teacher and Employee of the Month for the 2023-2024 school year. This year, each month is theme-based. For September, our theme is Igniting That Spark. This is the individual who is excited about working for Durham Public Schools at their schools or department. This individual always encourages people around them, offers a helping hand, welcomes new teachers or staff members, and exudes positive energy. Our Teacher of the Month is sponsored by North Carolina Central University's tennis team, the Tau Psi chapter of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, DCL Consulting, LLC, and the Vail Cares Foundation. And our Employee of the Month is sponsored by the Office of Human Resources. Both will receive a DPS Spark Pin representing what DPS stands for. We are going to recognize our Teacher of the Month first, then our Employee of the Month. Our September Teacher of the Month is Benjamin Gasper, outdoor teacher at Merrick Moore Elementary School. Benjamin has been very instrumental in helping new teachers on his team to acclimate to the school community. He has spent time in the summer with teachers who are new to Merrick Moore by inviting to join him during the summer program at the Hub Farm. This gave him an opportunity to build relationships and to provide one-to-one support to the teacher. In addition, he is very instrumental in our outdoor learning program. He provides students the chance to be exposed to outdoor experiences such as fishing, canoeing, rock climbing, and camping. He teaches students gardening, fire safety, and how to survive in the outdoor elements. He is one of the students' favorite teachers. He is amazing. On Tuesday, he was surprised by Coach Lawson, and they did a surprise on Tuesday with balloons and gifts. And Mr. Gasper would like to say a few words to the Board of Education, but congratulations to Mr. Gasper for being named Durham Public Schools September Teacher of the Month.
Good evening, y'all, and thank you. I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for creating a place where outdoor education has found a home to thrive in Durham. I have been given the opportunity over the 15 years I've actually worked here to create 2 outdoor education programs, and I don't know where else I would be able to do that. And I think it's just the creativity, the innovation, and trust in your teachers that you all have fostered here that has just made this space a place where I wanted to be. I left, I came back, and I'm happy that I did because I've had 8 wonderful years at Merrick Moore. And it's not just me that's an outdoor education teacher. Every teacher at our school embraces the outdoors as a powerful educational tool. And I just want to invite anybody, board especially, but anybody to come to our school and see what is going on because phenomenal things are going on. Using the outdoors as a powerful learning space. Just make sure you check in at the front office. Thank you.
Coach Lawson is here to present an additional certificate.
Good evening, everyone. Would like to again thank Mr. Gasper for the excellent work that he's doing at Merrick Moore with the students there. Would like to thank Dr. Alford also for nominating Mr. Gasper. And on behalf of DCL Consulting, we'd like to present Mr. Gasper with a check just as a sign of appreciation for what you do, the hard work. So thank you so very much again. Thank you for your
Thank you very much for all you do, Mr. Gasper. Our September Employee of the Month is Miss Gloria Howard, custodian from Maintenance Services. She looks phenomenal. Miss Gloria Howard has served DPS for many years, and she was nominated for her service and the way she goes above and beyond for our Durham Public Schools community. She has dedicated and takes pride in ensuring DPS is an environment of cleanliness. She is an asset to DPS and is so deserving of this award of recognition. Without a doubt, Eva Howard enthusiastically nominated Ms. Howard for the award of Employee of the Month. It is difficult to put into words how amazing she has been to Durham Public Schools, specifically to the school safety team. She is a dedicated and positive team member and all-around great person. She ignites the spark in DPS. Congratulations to Ms. Gloria Howard for being named Durham Public Schools September Employee of the Month.
Thank you, Ms. Hayes, and congratulations again to our honorees. The DPS Spark Pin is presented to students, staff, and community partners who embody DPS's core beliefs. Tonight, we recognize Martha Hernandez Aparicio, one of our staff members in the Office of Assessments. Martha was nominated because her work has improved the efficiency of the entire office. She has been instrumental in facilitating processes that are used to take days, that usually take days to complete. She has taken it upon herself to do research and review the technology to do specific code and write scripts to enhance productivity. And I need to note that Martha is self-taught. This is something that she acquired on her own because she knew that it would not only benefit her team members, but also the district. She strives daily for ways to help the Office of Assessments to provide timely feedback to the district and to school leaders. Her drive, initiative, and willingness to support her colleagues makes Martha a worthy recipient this evening. Congratulations, Martha. Please welcome Laura Parrott, Director of Advanced Academics, to the podium for our next recognition.
Good evening, Chairman Umstead, members of the board, and Dr. Mabenga. Tonight, I have the pleasure of introducing you to the graduates of the AIG licensure program through our Duke University partnership. We've just completed our 17th year and have begun the 18th. At the recent regional graduation ceremony, I shared with the graduates from the surrounding districts the A to Z of being an impactful AIG educator. Quickly, A, advocate that all children have the right to an appropriate education. B, build relationships. C, cultivate potential in all students amid a D, diverse population. E, engage, E, enlighten, and E, empower children because these students are our F, future. G, grow growth mindsets, and have H, high expectations for all. I, inspire learning and teach others to not J, judge someone by their gender, color, or background. K, keep your purpose in front of all that you do. L, lead others down a path of lifelong learning, which is M, minds on and meaningful. Nurture those students with hidden potential, as advanced education is a necessity, not an O option. Remember that you have the P, power to shape children. Q, question, R, reflect, and S, seek the strengths of all students to be more inclusive instead of exclusive. Provide T, time to nurture creativity and critical thinking. U, unlock considerations that often mask giftedness. V, value the W whole child. X, examine your beliefs about advanced students and remember that Y, you must not lose sight of excellence in an age of proficiency. And in conclusion, I told the graduates, Z, zealously go forth and make a positive difference in the lives of all children. And that is what our graduates have already been doing and we know will continue to do. So joining me at the podium is our coordinator of advanced academics, Yamel Anderson-Ruff, who will present each of our graduates with their Duke certificate. Pascal Adams, who is now the math coach at CC Spalding. Aaron Alexander, AIG specialist at Holt. Jennifer Bedoya, AIG specialist at Forest View. Our teacher who could not be with us tonight is Erika Hawkins, AIG teacher at Pearsontown, who also won the Regional Teacher Leadership and Gifted Education Award. Next, we have Aaron Hughes, AIG teacher at Little River, who won the Regional Teacher Advocacy Award in Gifted Education. Bree Roberts, AIG specialist at CC Spalding. Greg Robinson, AIG specialist at Glenn. And Anna Schlesinger, AIG teacher at Parkwood. Again, congratulations to these incredible educators.
Thank you, Ms. Parrott, but don't go too far. Our last recognition of the evening is to highlight the exceptionalities of our educators who serve at the district level. We know that DPS is filled with exceptional leaders, and tonight we would like to highlight two of our team members who are leading by representing our district on the state level. Laura Parrott, Director of Advanced Academics, who was appointed to the North Carolina Governor's School Board of Governors. And Dr. Julie Pack, Senior Executive Director for Career and Technical Education, who was named President of the North Carolina Association of Career and Technical Education. Thank you for your leadership, and we are so excited to see what you will do. Please be congratulated by our board. This concludes our celebrations this evening.
It's always great to start our meetings with celebrations and to hear about all the amazing things happening with our students, with our educators, it's also with the community partners and folks who are showing up every day for Durham Public Schools. Getting a little echo in here, but I think I'm going to keep going. I'm going to pass the next item on our agenda is the superintendent's update. I'm going to pass it to you, Dr. Mabenga.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, and DPS community. Our school year continues to progress. We are also making progress on the implementation of our new student assignment plan. Next week, our families will begin to receive information from the schools about student assignment changes next school year. Our principals will be sharing details in the weekly communication, and we will have flyers sent home with our elementary student next week. Our new site, dpsnc.net/possibilities, also goes live next week with important transition details for families. Our families will also receive a letter in the mail in the coming weeks with the new school assignment, and all are invited to attend meetings within each of the regions to learn more and meet the new principals. We look forward to supporting our families and schools through this transition. We also saw several of you, board members, during Mary Massenburg Elementary School's electronic beam signing that took place on Thursday, September 21st. We were excited to place the last beam on our newest elementary school scheduled to open next fall. We ask that you celebrate our diversity with us. DPS is proud to acknowledge Hispanic Heritage Month, which begins September 15th and will run through October 15th. Durham Public School proudly serves Somos DPS. Speaking of pride, we appreciate our Durham Public Schools principals and will observe National Principal Month in October. We thank each of our 56 school leaders for their hard work and their commitment to student success. While we are celebrating our principals, I would like to also say congratulations to 2 finalists and semifinalists for the DPS Principal of the Year designation. Our finalists are Michelle Middleton Brown and Matthew Hunt. Our semifinalists included Dr. Vanessa Alfred, Dr. Jackie Tobias, and Dr. Sheldon Lanier. Congrats to all of them. We continue to prioritize social emotional health and will conduct our annual panorama survey starting October 18 through November 1st. The survey measures progress toward goals 1 and 2 outlined in our own Building Our Future strategic plan. We will use the results and the survey to best support our students' learning needs. We also invite you to stop by our district 8th grade Career Expo to be held on October 24th at the Durham County Stadium, hosted by our Career Technical Education Department. The event is called Excel 8, pronounced Accelerate. It's being held to encourage rising 9th graders to begin thinking about their dream careers. This concludes my remarks.
Thank you, Dr. Mavinga. The next item on our agenda, is the agenda review and approval.
Approval of the agenda.
A second.
It's been moved by Ms. Valladares, seconded by Ms. Lewis. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please use the same sign. It passes unanimously. The next item on our agenda is the Board of Education monthly meeting minutes from August 24th, 2023.
Move approval of the minutes as presented.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Byers, seconded by Ms. Rogers. Is there any other discussion?
I had one correction. It should read Mackenzie Scott on page 2.
Okay, so there's one correction. We'll need to amend the motion.
Right. I definitely accept that friendly amendment. I would move the minutes as amended.
Second.
So it's been moved by Ms. Byer and seconded by Ms. Rogers. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those, those who oppose, please say aye. It passes unanimously. The next item on our agenda is general public comment. I have the rules that I'll read first before we get started. First, if you are coming to the podium, please state your name. And if you're speaking for an organization, please state your name and the name of the organization. Second, our speakers are going to be asked to present their comments within 3 minutes. When the yellow light comes on the podium, you will have 1 minute left to start winding up your remarks. When the red light comes on, the timer will beep and it indicates that your time is up. Complaints about named staff, students, or parents should not be voiced in open session. However, we are very interested in hearing your concerns with regard to the public education, safety of students, or to the operation of the school system. Finally, board members will listen carefully and will consider your comments, but we do not engage in a discussion with our speakers. Our first public comment speaker tonight is Jessica Bointer. And please correct me when you reach the podium if I pronounce your name wrong. Jessica will be followed by Lois Jackson.
Good evening, everybody. Members of the DPS Board of Education, Superintendent Mubinga, thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Jessica Boiter, you pronounced it right. I'm speaking on behalf of occupational therapists and physical therapist practitioners in DPS. We continue to be excluded from receiving the local supplement in our salaries, while our counterparts in many North Carolina counties have been receiving it for some time. We do acknowledge and appreciate the recent salary study that will result in an increase in salary for all classified employees when the state budget passes, but we still strongly believe that the inclusion of the local supplement in our salaries is the missing link to retaining and recruiting the highest quality OT and PT practitioners. The fact that OT and PT practitioners have been excluded from this supplemental pay is becoming harder to ignore as the cost of living in Durham is steadily increasing. Our OT and PT teams are actively losing talent for counties that provide supplemental pay. This highlights a troubling pattern that to afford to live in Durham, potential OTs and PTs are making the choice to work elsewhere. Orange County, Chapel Hill, Carborough schools both of those districts provide a gradually increasing supplement. I believe it's from 5.5% to 8.5% to classified staff based on years of experience. We strongly urge the board to consider a plan like this to best meet the needs of the staff OT and PT teams and to remain competitive with neighboring school districts. Our speech therapy and school psychologist colleagues have the same level of education and work with the same population of students that we do, yet they make several thousand more dollars than we do each year. At least 2.5 years of graduate school is a requirement to become an OT or a PT. Certified occupational therapy assistants often have a bachelor's degree, and then they go back to school to get a 2-year associate's degree in occupational therapy. Many of us have student loan debt that is now accruing interest again, and payments are no longer in forbearance. Many of us have small children in daycare, which feels like a second mortgage or rent payment each month. For those OTs and PTs who have been loyally working in Durham for decades and are close to retirement, their retirement income is based on their salary in the last 5 years of employment. So let's do right by them. We work in the schools because it's rewarding and necessary work. We know that therapist salaries are higher in hospitals, retirement homes, in almost any setting, but we stay in the schools because it's important work. We are asking the School Board of Durham Public Schools to acknowledge and validate this work that we do each day by providing the local supplement and making our pay equal to our counterparts in school districts like Wake, Chapel Hill, and many parts of the state. Some of us, myself included, have worked in counties that paid us more, and we took a pay cut to come to Durham, and it's past time to correct this. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak on this important issue. We urge you to consider what has been shared and move forward with a plan to address this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we have Lois Jackson. And again, please correct me if I mispronounce your name. Lois will be speaking on behalf of a group, so you will have 6 minutes according to our policy.
Good evening. My name is Bree Elsie. I'm the Executive Director of Inspiring Minds. We're an after-school program for underserved Black and Brown students at Hillside High School. And I'm going to yield my time to one of my students, Lois Jackson.
Hello, my name is Lois Jackson, as she stated, and yes, you pronounced it correctly. Hope you all are having a great evening. I just have a series of questions that I need to ask because they are pressing issues within our education system. My first question is, Why are you hiding important data concerning students that look like me? My second question starts off with the statement leading into a question. I'm really disappointed as to why the suspension data has been removed. Could you explain to me why that is? My third question is, what could be put in place to have more mental health days? Why does it appear that you all care more about the community's perception of you rather than students' mental health and education? Why are Black and brown students getting suspended more than white students? And my final question is, what is the hesitation around improving the resolution for Black and brown students? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And next we have Melissa Crum. Melissa will be followed by,
Hi, my name is, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Melissa will be followed by Katie McGono and then Darcel Pilliard. Again, please correct me if I mispronounce your names.
Hi, my name is Melissa Price Crom. I am the co-vice president of the Hope Valley Elementary School PTA. I'm here with our PTA president, Jenny Albright. We're here to discuss some grave concerns that we have with our school's playground. It is basically a condemned structure. You actually just came in and removed the slide because it had a giant crack in it, and if a child put his hand up there, could have smashed their hand. Thank you for doing that. It was a danger. There's boards up, there's rust. Our children don't have anywhere to play. And the whole school, all the parents are very concerned about this. They're coming to us asking, when are we going to get our new playground? Principal Miller said we've been approved for our playground, and I've emailed you. I've emailed Fred Davis. I have not gotten any response about the timeline for this playground. I see that there's contracts up with Bliss Products and Services for playground replacements and upgrades for 5 elementary schools on the agenda today. Is that us? Can you give us any information that every day we go to pick up our kids, parents are asking us, what about this playground? We are a Title I school. We are at 110% capacity, and you have now deemed us a lottery school. So, I expect that we should get something, and we should be able to have this for our children. So a response, you have my email. If you can respond and let us know what's going on there so we can tell all of our parents about the playground situation, that'd be greatly appreciated. Second, Hope Valley is nested in a beautiful neighborhood with lots and lots of children. And we know you're short on bus drivers. So we all live in the neighborhood. We decided to walk our kids. So, but the issue is a lot of us are crossing Hope Valley Road. There's no crosswalk. The city won't put in a crosswalk. We've asked for a decade for a crosswalk there. There's a crosswalk a mile down the road for the Hope Valley Country Club and blinking lights. But children crossing to school can't get a crosswalk. So can you provide us crossing guards, or can you just provide us stop signs that you can attach to the actual stop signs so we can go out and be the crossing guards? No children should get hit walking to school. And we just gratefully ask for your help. Thank you.
Thank you. McGinnell, Katie McGonnell. All right, thank you, Katie.
I just want to say to start that the celebrations, that's the kind of pep rally I want to go to. That was amazing. Watching you recognize the people who make us DPS was pretty awesome. So thank you for acknowledging the great work of your educators. I have personally worked with Ben and Aaron, and I can say to everyone in the room, they are two of the most amazing educators I've ever encountered. So great job, Ben, Aaron, and the wonderful students who are recognized as well. Now I have to talk fast. In my last public comment, I stood here and I misspoke. I said that Northern High School start date was Monday, August 23rd. I was fired up. Promised start date was Monday, August 28th. So my apologies for providing the community with misinformation. Students did begin school on Tuesday, September 5th, not delayed due to weather. The building had not yet to receive their occupancy permit. I did appreciate the fact that the district contacted the Northern community when they were enforcing or telling us about the makeup days and not putting that responsibility on the administration at Northern High School. However, now our children and your Northern teachers are being penalized for your lack of honesty and transparency during the construction of this building and having no contingency plan for the educational start for our children. I don't understand how you are so disconnected from the people that you serve. Families depend on older siblings to provide childcare on teacher work days. Parents use these days to schedule appointments months in advance to adhere to your 3 days with an A, 2 days with a B absence policy regarding final exemptions. This abrupt change to Northern schedule and your business as usual solution is not equitable for your families in Durham. The repercussions of your failure to open on time are now falling on the backs of your students and the teachers at Northern High School. I hope there is an extra duty contract in the works for them. It is 2023. We spent nearly 7 months facilitating learning online. Surely the people in this room can come up with an equitable solution for reimbursing our students the in-person learning they lost due to your negligence, not the cost of themselves, their families, or their overworked and underpaid teachers. I've been working in this district since August of 2016, and I have always been so proud to work for Durham Public Schools. But lately, it is really hard for me to say that. The continued personal and professional letdowns are becoming too hard to carry. I've removed myself from the Montessori training because I do not trust that I will be provided the resources that I need to carry out your vision of the Growing Together initiative. I will likely leave my school, this district, and quite possibly the profession. Thank you for the time.
And last but not least, Darcel Pilliard or Dilliard? Dillard, I apologize.
Good evening, Board and Dr. Medina. My name is Darcel Dillard, and I'm the parent of 2 children in Durham Public Schools. And today I'm coming to the board to address concerns that I have related to the policy on exam exemptions based on attendance. I've already emailed the board about this and I did receive a response, so thank you for that. But I'm here tonight for an update as a parent of an 11th grader at DSA who does have health issues and has to be out of school sometimes to take care of her mental health, her emotional health, her medical health and well-being. I would like to better understand the board's position and what the school is doing to make sure that there is, they are sending the message and communicating to students that their health and well-being is important, because right now what the message is being received by students is that school comes first and my health is last. And I'm sure that that is not what this district wants to send and convey to students. But when you say if you miss a day because you have a doctor's appointment or you're sick and you can't be exempted when you've worked hard all year, that's detrimental and it does harm our students. So I would like the board to at some point provide updates on where we are with that and to reconsider this policy. And also I would like to better understand why there's a carve out in the first place for these exam exemptions. It seems like the policy should be the same for other excused absences. Why is this any different? So that's one issue that I would like to leave with the board tonight. And then the second concern that I have is regarding transportation. I know that the board and the school district has been working on this, but would love to hear what solutions or where we are with, bus transportation, especially in the morning when students have 4 classes and they're showing up 20, 30 minutes late. That means that they're likely going to fall behind. And we need a solution for this so our students can be as successful as possible in their academic journey. So thank you for your time, and I look forward to hearing updates soon.
Thank you. And like I stated at the beginning of the public comment, it's our policy that we don't respond, but please know that we are listening and listening carefully to consider your thoughts when we do our work on the board. So the next item on our agenda is our consent items. There are A through E listed here on our agenda. Consent items have been reviewed by board members in advance, and so they are brought to the agenda tonight for approval. For a vote. Board members?
Move approval of the consent items. Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Valladares, seconded by Ms. Byer. Any other discussion?
Ms. Umstead, could we read about the playgrounds that are here that are in the consent items and just read the names of the schools for the public record. Fayetteville Street Elementary, Hope Valley Elementary, Eno Valley Elementary, Merrick Moore Elementary, and Burton Elementary. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. And any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please use the same sign. It passes unanimously. The next item on our agenda is the resolution to support the achievement and success of Black and Hispanic students in Durham Public Schools. This resolution was brought to us by board member Miss Rogers. I apologize. Ms. Byer sitting closest to me. She was in my eyesight. This was brought to us by Ms. Rogers. In our last work session, a team of us got together with superintendent, staff, as well as board members to work and edit the resolution, to work on how do we align it with some of our strategic plan goals, and also understand how kind of the data and different things that are available within the district and marry those together into the resolution. Ms. Rogers, would you mind if we read it first and then we had discussion? Is that okay with you? All right, so why don't we read, we'll start with you, Ms. Rogers, and come down to you, Ms. Carter Alton, as our practice is for resolutions, each board member getting a paragraph or a whereas.
Resolution to support the achievement and success of Black and Hispanic students in Durham Public Schools. Whereas Durham Public Schools is a school district that serves a majority Black and Hispanic student population, and we strive to end racial and ethnic disparities in academic outcomes in accordance with our strategic plan. And
whereas Durham Public Schools is a school district that serves a majority Black and Hispanic student population. And
whereas the Durham Public Schools Board of Education passed a resolution in support of Black boys and young men in April of 2016. And
whereas the Durham Public Schools Board of Education established an Office of Equity Affairs in 2017 to further support equity in education with the mission of ensuring that students experience educational equity in grades pre-K through 12, regardless of race or ethnicity. And
whereas the Durham Public Schools Board of Education passed the resolution to protect English language learner students in October 2021. And
whereas despite these and other efforts, Black and Hispanic students' educational outcomes remain persistently low than that of their non-Black and Hispanic counterparts. And
whereas in the 2021-2022 school year, 58% of DPS students were not proficient in reading, according to the North Carolina End of Grade Assessment, including 66% of Black students and 70% of Hispanic students. And
whereas in 2021-2022, 59% of DPS students were not proficient in math, according to the North Carolina End of Grade Assessment, including 70% of Black students and 61% of Hispanic students. And
whereas in 2022-2023 school year, Black and Hispanic students demonstrated a significant improvement in math and reading scores, with every subgroup of students demonstrating gains, exemplifying what we already knew, that our students are successfully learning. And
whereas Durham Public Schools is a growth mindset school district for individual students and school communities. And in 2022-23, 88.2% of our schools met or exceeded growth, outperforming our peer districts. And
whereas the Durham Public Schools Board of Education has made continuous efforts to advance educational equity by establishing the Office of Equity Affairs, annually approving the Crown Act, Black Lives Matter at School Week, and National Mentoring Month resolutions. And
whereas the Durham Public Schools Board of Education is united and working together with our families and community to eliminate systemic inequities for Black and Hispanic students and wants to accelerate this most urgent work.
Now-
And
Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Durham Public School Board of Education directs the superintendent and his designee to develop and lead a superintendent's Black and Hispanic Family Advisory Council with the purpose of providing guidance and input on matters related to increasing educational opportunities and outcomes for Black and Hispanic students in the school district. And
be it further resolved that the superintendent's Black and Hispanic Family Advisory Council will be selected by the Board of Education by fall 2024 and consist of members of the DPS community, including students, guardians, or parents of students who identify as Black, Hispanic, or Latinx, intentionally including intersectionality with other marginalized identities such as limited English proficiency or LEP students, immigrant students, undocumented students, and students of mixed status families, exceptional children, LGBTQIA+ students, low income and working class families, and
be it further resolved that the superintendent's Black and Hispanic Family Advisory Council will work with the superintendent and the Board of Education to develop and annually review and refine Durham Public Schools Black and Hispanic Student Achievement Plan, the goal of which will be to improve student academic opportunities and outcomes in alignment with the district's strategic plan. And
be it further resolved that the superintendent or his designee will by December 2023 present the 2023-2024 Durham Public Schools Black and Hispanic Student Achievement Plan, which will lay the groundwork for the final plan and will include
2022-2023 data demonstrating progress at the school and district level towards the following goals identified in the 2023-2028 strategic plan, including A, priority 1, goals 1A through 1F, priority 2, goals 2B through 2D, and C, where not otherwise specified, all data will be disaggregated by race, ethnicity, LEP status, and socioeconomic status.
SMART interim goals that the district is using to monitor progress towards achieving strategic plan goals 1A through 1F and goals 2B through 2D.
3, strategies currently underway at the school and the district level to work towards strategic plan goals 1A through 1F and goals 2B through 2D with a focus on Black and/or Hispanic students.
4, resources allocated at the school and district level for each of the aforementioned strategies.
5, methods the district is using to evaluate effectiveness of the aforementioned strategies.
be it further resolved that the success of the Black and Hispanic Student Achievement Plan will be continually monitored and evaluated by the superintendent, the board, and the Black and Hispanic Family Advisory Council based on the aforementioned key metrics at least annually.
Signed this 28th day of September 2023.
Thank you all for reading the resolution. I'll open the floor first to Ms. Rogers, if there's anything you want to add as we're setting the stage for the discussion, and then we'll open up for discussion.
Thanks, everybody. First, I want to express my appreciation for the care and concern that and efforts that supported this resolution from my colleagues from administration. Most especially my colleagues in administration from August 10th until now. We started talking about this in June of 2023, and it's been ongoing and urgent for us, and I appreciate that. When our teachers pack meals for our students and they stay after school to tutor a student who is struggling and spend hours developing highly differentiated lesson plans to meet the needs of all learners, that doesn't always show up in our test scores. When our students show up and give everything they have, but they're still struggling to catch up, especially after learning loss from the pandemic, it doesn't always show up in the test scores. And while this resolution seems to be about test scores, I want us to understand that there is a both and here, that our district's white students are consistently scoring well on standardized tests, when our Black and Hispanic students aren't scoring quite as high. These test scores are not the whole of any one student. They're just a small portion of it. And while this resolution speaks to those test scores, our hope is that the plan will speak to the Durham way and be authentic to the work that we're doing in increasing equity and ensuring that we're addressing the whole child. I want to hold on to the truth that our administration has done an excellent job of moving so many of our Durham schools into passing letter grade scores, while acknowledging that those letter grades are based on a flawed system and in and of themselves are flawed for so many reasons. I want to hold truth that we are doing excellent work in building equity into our school district, while also acknowledging that there's still so much more to be done. We heard tonight about the suspension data. We did remove the risk ratios around that, but we already have a policy 4303 that calls for us to ensure fair and consistent disciplinary procedures. We're still disproportionately suspending our Black and Hispanic students. I look forward to seeing the superintendent's recommendations on professional development that will address this issue and reducing these disparities and allow Black and Hispanic students to get disconnected from schools. We invest millions of dollars into proactive solutions to ensure student success, yet so many of our children are still struggling. Let's pay attention to that investment. Let's look at what we're doing and make sure that it's right. This plan is not an indictment on our administration. It is accountability for our families. We spend a lot of time here celebrating, and it's great, and for good reason. There's so much to celebrate in DPS. There's also still work to be done, especially when it comes to our Black and Hispanic children, many of whom, despite our efforts and investments, are continuing to struggle, including some of my own that are closest to me. I believe in the vision of this board, the abilities of our administration, the efforts of our teachers. I believe in the desires of our families and the hard work of our students. I'm excited for us to do this work together and demonstrate that incredible things are happening in DPS with this Black and Hispanic Student Achievement Plan that is presented in December. I really do. Thanks, y'all.
Thanks, Ms. Rogers. Any other discussion from board members?
Move approval of the resolution.
I think you got some discussion. You can move if you
Okay.
want, and then we could.
No,
second
go
it.
ahead, go ahead.
Ms. Chavez?
Okay, just making sure you're pointing at me. One, I wanted to say thank you so much for bringing this forward, Ms. Rogers, and it was a collaborative effort, and I'm very proud that we're doing this and that we are a district who is just addressing racial equity in so many different ways. I wanted to just mention, and Ms. Rogers could share more if you would like to, but you know, the fact that this is a model that's also been used in other areas of the country, I think that's significant, and I think we want to continue to do innovative things here. You know, look at models that have been produced in other areas as well as create them ourselves. So that was one thing I wanted to say. Do you want to speak to that at all?
Yes, there are many districts, especially in California, doing this. There's the LA Unified School District that is doing a Black Student Achievement Plan, and they have divested funds from law enforcement into investing in Black boy education for their district to improve the disproportionate outcomes and test scores for Black students. And they're already seeing some turnaround. I'm glad they're modeling this work. Our effort is very Durham. We want to be attentive to how we're spending our funding as opposed to divesting in anything else right now. And we are including Hispanic students and Latin students because we are an inclusive district and they're a significant portion of our community.
Thank you. I think that's awesome that this is also from what I think you have told me, this is the first plan of this kind that is inclusive of both Black and Hispanic populations. The other thing I just wanted to say is that, we have so many opportunities in Durham Public Schools for students. We have so many different programs. We're growing them through Growing Together. But there are still programs where we see a majority of white students. And I think of those programs when I think about the purpose of this program. We want to see all the programs in Durham Public Schools mirror the populations that we have. And so that is not a Durham Public Schools issue. That is a systemic, long-term historical issue. So we are, working to counteract so many longstanding forces in, our educational system in our country. And, that's the work we're that we are charged with doing as educators and people who are supporting education. So I'm very excited about this and can't wait to see how it will continue to help us build racial equity within our schools.
Thank you, Ms. Chavez. Ms. Carter-Alton.
Thanks. As was brought to us in our recent annual data, many of our students, including our Black and Hispanic students, are doing amazingly academically and otherwise. But the reality also, once you dig into our data a little bit deeper, is that many of our Black and Hispanic students are really struggling academically. This is not because they're not capable of achievement. And this is absolutely not because our educators and administrators are not skilled. And it's not because they're not working hard. Both the students and the educators and the administrators, everybody is working diligently. The fact is that we live in a society with staggering inequities where some have power and privilege and wealth and opportunity, and they have more than others. And while I'm not under any illusion that we're going to fix all of that and our school system has the power to fix all of that, we can do more to mitigate the harms of classism and racism. And that's exactly what I believe that this resolution, the resulting Family Advisory Council, and the resulting plan will do. Place a laser focus on the students and the families that need it most. Closely monitor what we are doing to serve these children, what we're investing in these efforts, and whether what we're doing is working. And when our strategies are working and the disparity in student achievement and in discipline is narrowing, this tells us these are good investments. When they're not working, we redirect our efforts. So I'm really excited about this. I'm so excited about the support of the board and the support of the community. And I think this is something that's going to be really good and highlight all of the amazing work we're already doing and build on that for greater excellence here in Durham Public Schools.
Thank you. And pass Ms. Valladares.
Yes, I have a lot of gratitude as well. I wanted to uplift that, this is work that is ongoing and work that definitely requires even more support from our community. Today, I saw some of our staff, Dr. Lassane actually, got to see her today at NCCU and just showing up because there was a Black SEL program and board member Javania Lewis was present. We had a former board member who was also present. Minnie was there as well. And everybody was just talking about how important it is that we continue to support our students, that we continue to love on them. This resolution is definitely a resolution that brings up, the need for us to really provide for our students as we talk about in the strategic plan, like as a whole person, an approach that brings a village of community, that has the accountability, that has growth mindset, and definitely the coalition building that is that we have been working on for a while. But this is, an opportunity, another opportunity to continue to expand that work. And so one of the key points that I got from today was that this moment right now, 2023, if you go back 30 years from this moment, from 2023, going back 30 years, rewind the clock back or the time back, we're actually faring worse in terms of inequalities than 30 years ago. And that was something that was said very clearly today, based on the data. The gaps are widening, and causal, savage inequalities, we've heard about this, like the gaps keep widening. And so I just want to also just thank our administration. I know that there's leadership here that sees it, that works night and day to help us. And so I'm really grateful for this board. I'm grateful for my colleague, Millicent, bringing this and checking with all of us, making sure this was a collaborative effort. And I'm very grateful for our administration working around the clock. You are all incredible. Every single day, even today, I bugged, one of you, and it's like, it's just work that we're going to do together in our community partners as well, providing opportunities for our kids to have extracurricular activities, to know that there are other adults, if there's, nonprofits that want to partner, that want to serve our kids. Some of them were shouted out today. There's more that can definitely support our students. And so I just wanted to just name that as well. And thank you all.
Ms. Byer?
I echo what my colleagues have said. This is the history of what this board has been about. I appreciate the touch points of history in here, and also just the urgency of continuing to focus and refocus this work, to be honest and transparent with our community about the data that is reflective of disproportionalities, some that are largely out of our control, but we're going to continue daily to address them. There was a whole chunk that got edited out because the data to me is the least important thing that we do. What I want to make sure is that the work that goes forward reflects that there are arts and athletic opportunities and extracurricular activities that are equitable, regardless of which high school or middle school you attend in Durham. That if we have places where AP classes and honors classes are not offered and they should be, we highlight that, bring it forth and fix it. Like, we're not hiding anything, but we can say that your address does not at all define your future. And so I want us to look at those qualitative things as we look at the data. We should be offering foreign language. And as we're doing that more with Growing Together, we're going to have to be accountable to our community and to those new Growing Together regions as we do it like Durham. And it does, Ms. Valladares, buck the national trend, because the national trend and the state leadership has gone in the wrong direction for children. But in Durham, this is what is right and guaranteed to these children, that we bring equity and we bring exactly what children and families need. And I look forward to the voices of the community joining in this work with us. Because I know that is a powerful, powerful voice that we need at the table. So I look forward to it, and I appreciate administration's willingness to lead this work. It is the heart of the work. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rogers, for bringing this to us, and I appreciated the opportunity to work with you on it. I think we were able to do some really good revisions and have a lot of good conversations. I think what I'm hearing a lot from my colleagues and what I believe in equity work is yes, and yes, we know our students are amazing and talented, and we got to make sure we're getting the academic scores up. Yes, we recognize how scores are impacted by the history of systemic racism in our country and all the different inequities, and we know our students can still achieve. It's always a yes and conversation that we need to have. So I really appreciate this resolution, and I even in thinking about this thought, like, wow, there could be many subgroups that come from the family council, right? A focus maybe on boys, focus on our LGBTQIA students, a focus on girls, lots of different ways that we could have smaller groups who really focus on some of the topics that we need to continue to dive in and move forward. And I think the other piece, we name in here all the ways that DPS has been doing equity work. And we also know that this is a moving target. We're continuing growing and evolving. And so this council feels like a new evolution of the equity work that Durham Public Schools has been doing. I did want to note, just for the community, we have priority 1 strategic plan goals here. The priority 1 goals are academic goals. Priority 2 goals are around suspension. And so those are 2 areas that they may not look the same, but just want to make sure people know that that is still included in the resolution. Those goals are there. And then I just made a couple of grammatical changes in here as we went through. So if we can move the resolution with some of the changes, I think there's just a couple extra periods in different places. That would be great.
Move approval of the resolution to support the achievement and success of Black and Hispanic students in Durham Public Schools with those revisions.
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Rogers, seconded by Ms. Carter-Alton. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed, please use the same sign. It passes unanimously. All right. Excited to get that work started. The next item on our agenda is going to be with our Chief of Staff, Dr. Tanya Giovanni. She has policy 3410, testing and assessment programs. Dr. Giovanni.
Thank you. If you could pull up the PowerPoint, please. Good evening, Chair Umstead, Dr. Mabanga, and board members and members of our Durham Public Schools community. By way of history, while they're pulling up the PowerPoint, we are bringing for information and discussion for the board's review a portion of policy 3410. It is regarding the exam exemption portion. It was requested that administration take a look at this and bring it to the board for the board to discuss it. Just for history, we did at the principals meeting on September 6th, all of the high school and secondary principals were there, and we advised that this was going to be coming to the board for their review and discussion, and that we were going to be sharing what some other districts were doing, and then we would be coming back to them. In the interim, we also convened a team to look at what other districts were doing and start some preliminary conversations around what may be some options potentially after we heard back from the board this evening. The members of that, next slide, please. The members of the team were Dr. Jackie Tobias, the DSA principal, Dr. Deborah Pittman, and Mr. Pablo Friedman, and myself. And we met for a little over an hour and pulled together these various policies. Next slide, please. The language on your screen indicates what the current policy is for Durham Public Schools. All high school students have to take end of course exams, but these are the exams that are not end of course or not NC state finals, which I don't think they even have anymore. But these are teacher-made exams that Durham Public Schools has created this policy that indicates that for a semester course, students with an A average don't have to take the exam as long as they don't have more than 3 absences. And those are lawful or unlawful absences according to the policy, with a certain amount of exemptions, which are listed at the bottom of the screen. The other portion is students with a B average in a semester course having no more than 2 absences are exempted from taking exams. For a full year course, it's an A average with no more than 6 absences or a B average with no more than 4 absences. And if you go down to the final paragraph on the slide, you will see that the exemptions, well, the carve-outs for the absences being lawful or unlawful include school-sponsored field trips, school-approved activities, religious holidays, and school system-approved medical hardship waivers. Accepting those, all other absences, lawful or unlawful, excused or unexcused, count towards that absence limit. Next slide, please. So the first on the slide we're going to talk about is the Wake County policy. Based on our research, Wake County does not allow exam exemptions except for high school seniors. And for those seniors, they've listed here what they are allowed to do, but it is again only for high school seniors. And if you look on the yellow box, it tells you no more than 3 absences of any form, that would be excused or unexcused during the semester with an A, no more than 2 with a B, and no more than 1 with a C. And again, that's only for seniors in the Wake County policy. Next slide, please. Cumberland does not allow any exemption. And again, this is based on our research. We did not call. We went on the internet and did a search. So based on that, Cumberland does not allow any exemption. Everyone takes the final exams regardless of their grade or their absences. Charlotte Mecklenburg, also, there are no exemptions from high school examinations based on prior academic performance or attendance. And I've included the dates just to kind of give you some perspective on when these policies were adopted or determined by these other PSUs. Union in March 2019 adopted the policy that a student having an average of 90 or above the week prior to the administration of the exam with no more than 2 unexcused absences is allowed to be exempted from the exam. Students with an average of 80 at the a week prior to the exam having no more than 1 unexcused absence are allowed to be exempted. Next slide, please. Winston-Salem, Forsyth County Schools, their policy, similar to Wake County, they also have, well, not similar to Wake County, but they also have an A, B, and C amount that they allow no more than 5 for A's, no more than 3 for B's, and 0 for C's. And that is for the semester block courses. Next slide, please. Winston-Salem goes on and they have a variety of other restrictions on these exemptions. Next slide, please. And lastly, we were unable to find a board policy for Guilford, but Southeast High School in Guilford, we were able to find their exam exemption policies, which they only allow, based on what we were able to find, students can be exempted from 1 exam only for the semester if they meet the following criteria: having an A, B, or C with no ISS incidents at all, and no more than 3 excused or unexcused absences for the semester. And then they have a list of the exams that cannot be exempted. Various classes, AP classes, and students taking English 2, Math 1, et cetera. So they have a long list at Southeast High School. Next slide, please. And they also, this continues the Southeast High School exams that cannot be exempted for vocational classes. Next slide, please. So we wanted to bring this at the board for the board to provide administration with some guidance on what the board was interested in doing with the exam exemption. So happy to have that conversation. And Dr. Pittman is available as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for that presentation. We know we've heard lots of public comment from community members around, and students and parents around our exam exemption policy. So wanted to make sure we had an opportunity to discuss it. I think I can be heard now. I'll repeat what I said earlier. Thank you all for bringing this policy review. We have had a number of public comments from community members and parents, students around the exam exemption policy. And so wanted to take time to review what we have and compare that with others. I'll open it up to the board for questions or comments. This item is for discussion, so we could send Dr. Giovanni and her policy review team with some guidance if we wanted to make some changes or shifts, or we have opportunity to ask questions and decide if we want to keep what we have today. But it's not for a vote, it's just for discussion. Ms. Carter Alton.
I just have a question to start. I was wondering if we could hear more about the process for obtaining the medical hardship waiver, both from the perspective of the student and their family and administration or teachers at the school. What does that burden look like on both sides?
What I would say is that was an administrative process. So that isn't under like the board review process, but based on our conversation with the secondary and high school principals on September 6th, that will be done away with. We would, it is the recommendation of those principals and administration that due to equity concerns, because that medical waiver, which we tracked what the state does in order to be exempted from ELC classes. And so based on that is how we ended up doing the medical hardship waiver. But it was shared with us by those principals that that was causing a lot of hardship, financial and equity wise for their families, that if a child just has a stomach bug or a headache for a couple of days, that that medical hardship was requiring families to go to the doctor and get a note. And so it would be our recommendation, based on the feedback from the principals and our conversations, that it'd be a note from a parent for any medical concerns and that those be considered excused. But based on the way the policy is phrased at this point, it's excused and unexcused absences. So we would need to know if the board would want to change the policy to include all medical absences based on a parental excuse versus a doctor or physician signed excuse. But the principals were fairly clear, and there was a consensus from the principals that the medical hardship waiver was onerous, both for them to administer and for families to obtain.
Thank you. That's very helpful. So if I'm understanding, we'd either remove that from the list of those that are accepted from this policy, which includes field trips, school approved activities, like those don't count against the absences, right? So we'd remove it from that list, or we would change it to where it would be like a note from a parent instead of official.
And then it would be
Right.
included in those carve outs. So the
Yes.
carve outs don't count towards the lawful or unlawful, excused or unexcused. So if you were to do that, you would have to, right now it's a medical hardship waiver, which medical meaning you have to have a physician signed form.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Ms. Byer.
So we heard a lot from families after COVID because, and can you all remind me of what we did for COVID absences specifically, and especially when folks are supposed to stay out 5 days still, right? When families came before, it was that we were automatically excusing all COVID absences. Anybody remember this? It's been a millennium ago, but yeah. We had guidance from the state during the early pandemic kind of, yeah. So that was where I think a lot of our students were coming from, especially those types of days. But you're saying that if we had a parental note to excuse that, that would be enough if we modify policy to cover that. The other thing that I thought some other districts had that was helpful was bereavement leave or grief kind of thing. One county had that, and I was surprised that we didn't have that. Did y'all note that in somebody's? And somebody had scholarship interviews with documentation. I saw that in one of the policies. I thought those were good. But I guess you're showing us also that our policy is actually one of the most generous that you've been able to find.
Correct. It does actually allow it for freshmen. There are many of them, like I think Cumberland and Charlotte don't allow any exemption. Wake County is only seniors.
And we've heard a lot from students and families that really feel that exams are cumbersome. And I understand that. And I also want our students to be ready for Durham Tech and for their college experience, where the majority of their grade will be from taking a final exam. And so I want them to be ready for that. And I do think that I don't know how old this policy is. I think it predates me. So it's been a while since we've looked at it. I'm glad we're looking at it. I think the true intent of it is actually to encourage attendance, especially in high school, where sometimes even freshmen get senioritis, right? I mean, I think that's the part of it that is supposed to be kind of a carrot for folks. I don't have a lot of problem with how our policy is written as it is. I'd be interested to hear from colleagues, but the bereavement leave and then making sure that when kids are sick, they stay home. And then we encourage them to actually keep their sickness at home. would be just minor modifications that I think would improve it. But thank you.
Ms. Rogers?
Thanks, everybody, for bringing this. I agree mostly with my colleagues. I really liked where Wake County has this click here for the list of courses that do not have an NC final exam, and the click here for the list of courses that do have a CTE or post-assessment. I think, especially in the last few years, there have been some educators making up some of those tests and the end of course tests for students that inadvertently missed their EOC or EOC. And we need to do things to mitigate that if we are going to bring some clarity around this policy, I think. What are the ramifications of a student missing an EOC, making that crystal clear? Yeah, but I think by far what everybody has said is the medical exemption, some bereavement, those kinds of things, and being clear about what is excused or not excused. Dr. Giovanni, you're looking at me funny.
No, I was looking at the policy, so I just want some clarity. Where there's an EOC, that is governed by the state. This exemption is for non-EOC. So
Yes,
I think I'm.
so providing clarity on our website and our school's websites about a list of courses that have an EOC, so that we don't have educators having students come in to make up EOCs that they've missed because they thought they were exempt from that course when we can't exempt them from that.
Understood. Just want us to just clarify that we can, when we talk with the principals, and Dr. Stewart can certainly make sure that that is done, that principals understand that there is that need for clarity for students and families around which courses have EOCs and which are qualified for this exam exemption.
Yes, and I assume that's what that click here thing does on the Wake County website.
I didn't click it. I'm not sure.
Well, it's not clickable in the PowerPoint. So I know you didn't put that there for us.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, no, it is. I did click that. On the yellow box at the top, it is a list of courses. It's not clickable on this. This is a screenshot, but on Wake County's website. So we can make sure with principals that we have it clickable on our website.
Thank you.
And Dr. Stewart, I'm sure will make sure that happens.
I think too, we can put them on the website, but that definitely feels like something that teachers should be reminding students of too in the courses. You know, they are studious, and I don't know, they're all looking at our website for the list of courses. So how do we make sure it's a practice that teachers are, sharing, hey, this is the EOC course, you got to be here. And inevitably somebody will miss it because we're imperfect people.
I think this should be included in all the syllabus or syllabi. So, yeah.
Ms. Lewis? Ms. Chavez? Oh, sorry, did you have something?
You said me?
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. Ms. Lewis.
No, I do. Thank you for doing this research and sharing it with us and see where our policy rests with those in nearby counties. I do remember when this conversation came up, time evades me, so I don't know when, but I do remember when it came up and I took some notes around it and was curious, particularly that there is cross policy around attendance. As Ms. Beyer had mentioned, and that's policy for 4,400. And that policy talks about attendance and excessive absences and the opportunity to provide incentives to keep students in school. So it's really, this is an incentive, and I just really want our public to know, our 1 million viewers, is not meant to be punitive by any means by these standards. I appreciate the thoughtfulness and what we can etch out. And I agree with the bereavement. And I thank you also for sharing with us that the principals have already talked about what medical hardship looks like, and that a note from a parent can help that, because we don't want kids coming to school when they're ill. We do want them to take care of themselves. And if we can etch that out as well, I think that will be super helpful. The last thing I just wanted to say is when the conversations and the students came to speak on this before, it just struck me really along the lines of valuing education and the relationship, the sense of belonging that students should want to have in being in their school. We know that our teachers are inevitably not teaching to the test, but there is a relationship that's formed through the year. And there's something that that student could give to another student by their presence and being there, being supportive, teaching each other, growing each other. So I just want to really clarify that it's not meant to be punitive. It is to encourage holistic learning and that cohort that is in that classroom together. I just want our families just to be mindful of that. And it's good to know that we are very gracious in this. I also know historically in 91, the exemptions were taken out and you didn't have to have an exemption. You could just miss it, it didn't matter how many absences you had. But in 92, the board put that policy back in place because a lot of students were missing, and it's more than just taking the test, and our teachers are not teaching to the test, but it's the holistic experience. So I appreciate keeping our policy as it is with a few more etch outs, considering where we are today. Thank you.
Ms. Chavez?
I so agree with those sentiments that Ms. Lewis was speaking on about wanting our students to be in school. That's what we want, even if they're, succeeding, and we want them also to, to do well. But we definitely want our students to be part of the classroom community every day that they can. I have a few thoughts about modifying our policy. And thank you for doing this research. It's really helpful to see the comparative just with the other districts and everything. So one thing, I guess, if to Ms. Rogers' point about putting the click here piece on the website, and also Dr. Mubanga, you said having it clarified in teachers' syllabi if there is a test, what type of final exam the student is to take. I just like this language from Wake where they said, however, it is important to note that no student can be exempted from state tests, including end of course exams and CTE post-assessments and or any other state field tests. Just emphasizing that. I know that sometimes teachers do say things many times, but it may still be missed. And so communicating this multiple ways would probably be helpful. I agree about the bereavement policy. There's a policy in here, I forget which place it was, that said a death in the immediate family. I don't know if we need to specify that or not. I think we'd have a deeper conversation on family and all of that, but just a bereavement policy would be desirable. And then also in our policy, let me look back. We may want to specify just by when the eligibility for that exam exemption is determined. One of the other policies said a week before exams, something like that. So that their grade that week before is what determines. Sometimes, students' grades can fluctuate a little bit. So I know they'd be wanting to know as soon as they can, that can be determined. And then one policy had a piece about tardies, which I also thought was good, for tardies converting to an absence. Tardyism can be an issue as well. And so we also want our students to be on time. Of course, if it's, as long as it's not right, buses or anything else. But I would be in favor of putting something like that in there. And then with those, all those excused pieces, I actually want to say, I'm not sure if we need to have, do we still need to keep 3 and 6 unexcused absences? Is that, I mean, this seems like you can miss, be excused for several different reasons from school. But do we still need to keep the unexcused absence piece as well. If we widen, what's acceptable as far as an excused absence. I know it's going in the opposite direction where we started, but in some ways it's not. I mean, we want to be thoughtful about what is excused. So that's a question for my colleagues.
Can you repeat your question one more time, Michelle?
Yes, my question is, do we need to have essentially an exemption policy around 3 unexcused absences or unlawful absences for a block course, a semester-long course, or 6 absences for a year-long course? Or can we just say, if you have an A and all these and any excused absences, but 0 unexcused absences, then you can be exempt?
Well, I was just thinking, so our absences are lawful or unlawful, right? So it doesn't matter if it's excused or unexcused. But to have the number there says it cannot be any more than that number. 3 excused or unexcused with the A, or is that with the B? And then C, right? Except those, that's okay, except those results, right? So the 3 and the 6 is based on the grade. Is that my understanding, whether it's excused or unexcused? If we take away the number, we're saying that they can have as many or have not any at all.
Well, I think with the except there, if we put all of the bereavement, those resulting from being sick, all of that in the except here, then they can have any, there's no number that we specify that they can have that would.
Yeah, I was just saying, I think we still need a limit, no more than 3, no more than 6 with what's already in place.
Yeah, she's saying, do we need any on top of everything else, right? You're saying, do you need any gimme days, free days, mental health days, or whatever's left? In addition to if we're widening what can be excused, and we're saying that you still can be
Yes.
exempt.
Yes, and as an example, so say I have 2 college interviews. That's 2 days. I was sick with COVID and I was out 4 days or 5 days. If I was out 5 days and 2, and then 2 college interviews, I was out 7 days. But those are all excused. Then do we still need that grace basically of you can have 3 absences for a semester long course, and if you have an A, unexcused essentially, yes.
I think if I understand your question correctly, I would, because lawful and unlawful, excused or unexcused is the language that's used around absences, period, for all the classes, I think we should probably keep this the same, because otherwise it might get confusing of because absence, I want the language to be consistent across the board, right? So your absences in school, if you have 10 that are unexcused or unlawful, leads to something else. If we take language out here, then it might be okay, well, what's excused and unexcused, et cetera. So I think, how do we keep the language consistent for families so it doesn't get confusing? What we are saying is we're broadening what's lawful, but I think that's okay for this policy. I think, again, we take out the language and say any absences, it might get confusing because it's for certain classes, not for all classes, and that might get confusing.
I think I was looking at policy 4400 since Ms. Lewis referenced it, and it has more categories than we've talked about. So it already is bugging me, Ms. Giovanni, that I think we have to be consistent in that. It says personal illness or injury that makes the student physically unable to attend school, isolation ordered by local health officer, death in the immediate family, not, includes but not limited to, and it gives examples, medical or dental appointment, attendance in court or administrative tribunal, minimum of 2 days for observance of religious event, participation in a valid educational opportunity such as travel or a legislative page, pregnancy is in there, and a minimum of 2 days each academic year for visitation for child custody kind of stuff. So I think it's important for us to be consistent as y'all take whatever it is we're saying and go back and figure it out.
And I'll just say one more thing to that too. It also says that incentive cannot be based on grade. The incentive given to support attendance cannot be based on grade. So in the policy, when we have A's and B's, that is based on grade.
I guess it's a question of, we talked about it as an incentive, but is it truly an incentive? I don't know. It seems like you could, have an argument for that either way. Do you have something, Ms. Rogers, to add on to that?
I'm reminded of something that I posted in response to some parents on social media, and I want us to be mindful of that as we think about this. We are encouraging all students and families to make the best use of the time that they have available to them, teacher work days and other opportunities to do college visits. We are not encouraging you to miss the same class multiple times a semester as we look at this policy. Right, we want to encourage folks to be in school. So with all that, I see where y'all are going with this lawful versus unlawful. And the exceptions, my interpretation, Ms. Byer, in 4400 is that those exceptions are made without regard to grade. This exam exemption is different because it's about whether or not we're taking a test, not whether or not we're approving the time away from class.
Yeah, I hear all that. There, I also went down to the bottom and there's athletic implications for the High School Athletic Association in there too. So I just want y'all to figure it out and bring it back. I mean, you kind of hear the spirit of how we're thinking about it. Yeah.
I have two questions that have come up for me. One is, this might not be popular, but are we sure we want to keep this open to all students and not just something reserved for seniors, as other districts have done, thinking about keeping kids in school, incentivizing something maybe. Also, how long, like say I think it'd be useful to know, thinking of this as like absences, potential absences, how many potential days, like if a student is exempt from all their exams they could be exempt from, how many days are we talking about here, or half days, or so we know how many days they might be out of school. That's not something I expect you to know right now, but like for me, that'd be useful to know, because then I know how many days we're thinking they'd be at home hanging out. Start hanging out instead of being in school.
They can be exempt for 4 days, or you may have one day, you say it's gonna be first period or exams, then next day, second period exam, so they can be exempt for 4 days.
So 4 full days from school around the last week of school.
If they're blocking the whole time for exam.
Okay, thank you.
Sometimes those are half days, or like 3.
Depending on the way they schedule, they can have exam one day, then the remaining of the time is remediation to other things, then second period will be tested the next day. So some principals, they have hard time to schedule 2 exams, especially if it's EOC classes.
Did you have another question, Ms. Cardoff? Okay. Ms. Chavez, and I'm gonna jump in and.
No, just a comment about, like, again, related to the pandemic and some of the COVID rates going up and the 5 days that, folks are just thinking like they're being penalized, because those 5 days. I mean, if it's Monday through Friday, right? Not counting the weekends. So we heard a lot about that during the pandemic, and unfortunately, we still have COVID happening. And so, but I don't see that there's any precedent or that districts that are actually taking that into account. And so I guess I'm fine with the policy that we have. I also think that I really like the discretion that, the discretionary component that some administrators have, in knowing, like, the kinds of things that are excused, but I think that that number still just bothers me, like, somebody can be out for 5 days and that they will not be able to take advantage of this. That's just what I'm sitting with. That's the only thing that comes up for me. But I also do think that in terms of like the criteria and how expansive the criteria is, and what's listed on here, I do think that maybe adding another category to just allude to the discretionary power that some of our administration has when they consider McKinney-Vento students who, are in the process of getting transportation and they're still waiting for that and they're coming late because like transportation is still being worked on, like it's not spelled out in 4400. But there's definitely that discretion that principals do have. And I think that, maybe some of that discretionary language can also be applied to this. So it's not all inclusive, that there's room for administration to have discretion. But I still sit with somebody who gets COVID and is out for 5 days will not be able to take advantage of this.
Yeah, I think I just want to kind of summarize, I think, where we are. Currently, the policy states that it's lawful or unlawful absences, except for, so if you have as many of these absences as needed, I want to say, right? We're not saying like, just take a lot of absences because we do have work days and other times, but as needed, it's important for students to be in school. School sponsored field trips, school approved activities, scholarships, do they count as interviews as a school approved activity?
So there's some clarity needed based on meeting with the principals. There is some clarity. No one really knew what school approved activities were. Like when we were all kind of talking about it, it was, what exactly is that? Because there are students that, have the scholarship. There were some principals that indicated they did not consider the scholarship trips to be school approved activities. And some principals said that they had always thought those were. And then there was a conversation around students that travel for various athletic things, like they're on a tennis team or volleyball team, and they may have to leave for out of state on a Friday. And whether or not that's school approved or an educational trip, or is that would right now count towards, even if it's the parents have a note, it would count towards absences because it's without that clarity. Some principals are going to count it, I should say, and some principals may not. They may consider it school approved. So I think that with the feedback that we've gotten from the board, I would like to take that back to the secondary and high school principals, Dr. Mabenga, with your approval, and kind of get some additional feedback, and then we can bring it back to the board with that feedback from those principals.
Yes, let me finish summarizing.
Okay.
Before you take off there.
Okay.
Okay, so except for school sponsored field trips, school approved activities, religious holidays, we would edit school system approved medical hardship waivers to say parental notes due to illness or illness absence with a parental note. I don't know, you can wordsmith it a little bit, but that would be instead of medical waivers, which would include if someone has COVID and has to be out for 5, 6, 7 days, whatever.
So that'll be an exception.
Right. So so that would include that. Also include mental health days is also what I'm hearing, or other things, students who have lots of appointments. So if you fall into those categories, those absences will not count towards your exemption. Absences outside of those categories do count toward the exemption.
Yeah.
But I'm also hearing that we can add bereavement to that list. But I'm hearing that we need consistency around how this is enforced. And so I wonder, we can make those small tweaks to the policy, but also how do we kind of give guidance to principals, especially when you're going to have some say yes to some say no to some. So how do we get some consistency around scholarship interviews or field trips? I think the other thing I just want to keep mindful of, and this can be done through the principal conversation, is does this increase absences or not? And I don't want that to happen. And I say that if people are sick, people are sick. So not saying come to school if you're not well, but if we see more absences for other things, I think that might also be hard we might need to readjust if we start to see more and more absences in this category. Did I
That-
summarize okay?
Yes, I do want to, but principals did lift up their concern around the absenteeism of if the policy was adjusted, depending on the direction that the policy was adjusted. So they did, that was lifted up by the high school principals, that they had some concern.
So if I hear the consensus of the board correctly, we do want to make these changes. I would ask that we still come back maybe to this after this quarter is over, or not quarter, this semester is over, or at the end of June, when the year is over, to see where the absences kind of fall with principals to understand how we make these changes that was like what impacted to have this year. Not in December, not first semester though. We need to do it at the end of the year. So those year-long courses we can see.
So don't bring this back, don't bring it to the principals and bring it back to you in
So we're gonna
October?
make the wording changes now.
Okay.
And so we'll change the medical hardship waiver into the parent note, also add bereavement, and then provide guidance on what our school approved activities in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
And then in next summer, have after a conversation with principals to understand with this new policy and this new guidance, what happened with absences this year. And then we might look back and say, oh, maybe seniors or juniors or consider if we saw absences increase. Again, not for illness, people are sick, please stay home. But for other things.
So with that, can we get like some average absenteeism rates for previous years that might not necessarily include the COVID years or might, whatever y'all can. But that's in June, not. You know what I mean? Like after we see the results of this change.
I think I'm pretty sure. So you're saying we're gonna make these edits that you've summarized, bring it to the principals, get their feedback, bring it back to the board, sharing that principal feedback. And the board will adopt or not adopt any changes at that point. And then in June of 2024, bring back to the board longitudinal data, including with this change to see absences and going a little further beyond those COVID years, like further back. Okay.
I do think it's a little tricky because it's not clean comparison, right? Absenteeism data is like, we're talking about specific students taking specific classes and the absenteeism data is written in all students. So I just want to be clear that it won't be great. That's why I think some of the principal feedback might actually be better data for us to use in informing it, because it's just not, we should look at all of it, but it's just not as clean.
Just clarifying question here. My understanding that's those edits that we're getting, we're taking these to the principals and bring it back to you before you can adopt this, or this is pretty much like a done deal. This is what we're gonna do. So that's my first question.
I don't know that I would say that since you already have principal feedback that you've brought to us, we can make the changes and go forward with that.
I thought that you only had a little bit of principal feedback and you told them that you were going to bring our thoughts back to them for more comprehensive feedback. Is that right?
So we were initially going to, but once we got in, when our team was meeting, and Dr. Tobias's feedback was that we needed direction from the board before bringing anything back to the principals. But we did have that at the principals meeting, the conversation around, but not like I didn't expressly say to them bereavement because I wasn't aware of bereavement. So that's, but the principals are aware that this was coming before the board. And I believe that I've shared, and Dr. Pittman jump in, but I believe I've shared all of the feedback that I've received from them, including Dr. Tobias and at the principals meeting. I don't think there's anything that I've missed that they shared, but they have not had a chance to react to
These
this
new
new
proposed
stuff.
changes.
Yeah.
But one of these changes are what the principals proposed of having a parent note for medical waivers.
One of them, but
No. At the September 6th meeting with all principals, I'm assuming that was the feedback that came. Dr. Tobias worked on the smaller group that did the policy review.
sorry, I meant one of the changes.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I apologize. So the other change we would make is bereavement and then providing guidance on what school approved activities are. So those would be the three changes.
I'm
after considering this and hearing the discussion, I'm interested in actually reserving this policy for seniors. And so, in talking with the principals, I wonder if you could just solicit some information about how they feel about that. If it was just for seniors, would that be a positive, do they think that would be positive for 9th through 11th graders? And then I'm also interested in just saying, modifying this to say has an A average and no unexcused absences. So I think that's part of where I'm kind of landing with this as I think about it.
So, and what, why would you add the unexcused absences?
No, because well, I think we haven't reconciled the tension or the difference between policy 4400 and this policy. And I am not sure why some of these things would be excused in 4400, but not qualify for an exemption. I just would like some consistency between those two. So that's why I'm wondering if there needs to be any allowance for essentially unexcused or unlawful absences.
I think your question on seniors is a good one. I think we should keep it simple for now. I think at making a change like seniors feels like also we would want to have a longer process of having community input, parent input, principal input. So I think I'm going to ask if that's okay with you, Ms. Chavez, that we hold that for next year once we get some information about when we make this change. Also the unexcused absences also could mean like I was really out for my doctor's appointment and I forgot to bring my paper in. So I would worry about adding anything that was unexcused because and this is above and beyond, right? This is not just attendance. This is like above and beyond for specific students, specific classes. So I understand then we want to consider both, but it's a kind of for a different subset of students when it comes to attendance. Does someone else have something, Ms. Fire?
Yeah, I want to honor the students and teachers that started the year with this policy in place and kind of see if there's some consistency adjustments we can make mid-year, but I think other things should hold for, like major things should hold for late spring for us to consider for next year with more data. I do have questions like Ms. Chavez brought up about are we being too lenient and adding, and even essentially lets our policy have 2 or 3 freebie days in addition to whatever, when I love that some of the policies in other districts have really positive attendance framing language to lead into that we want our students to be in school. We need our students to be in school, not just for their own grade, but for, the collaborative work they're doing with their peers. And to set those kind of healthy learning habits. I heard you, Ms. Umted, say mental health days can be excused with a parent writing a note. And is that, I had a nephew that really would not have done well if his parent could just write him, he's not, they had truancy officers in court that in Texas that came to their house and that helped my teenage nephew. So I don't know how we're working on mental health days excused by parents in a way that actually is helpful. And I'd be curious to hear what our principals and administrators say on that realm. It's just a very generous policy to begin with. So, yeah. And I appreciate hearing from leaders.
I'm going to take Ms. Carter-Auten, then I'm going to try to summarize again so we can move forward. Ms. Carter-Auten.
Just briefly, it feels like we're missing a key voice in this discussion, and that's of the educators that are in the classroom. I wonder, I know that we don't have time to do that maybe right now before we make a decision on this, but it feels like they're the ones that are there with the students and know most closely how this might affect the dynamic in the classroom. And also they might have thoughts on the value of the final exam. I think that there is some research to indicate that tests do kind of cement knowledge in your brain that you learned earlier. So are we taking something away from educators that without even talking to them in that way or others, related to attendance and things like that?
All right, so I'm gonna try to summarize this one more time. And maybe I'll propose this. So we give guidance to principals around school approved activities so that there's some consistency across the district. I think that is very important. 2, that maybe we keep medical hardship waivers and say that's with a parent note, though, like the medical hardship waiver is the parental note. Because I do want to make sure that we cover COVID, and we know that finding a PCR test in the doctor's office can be complicated and all of that. So maybe it is for sickness, physical illness, and that medical hardship waiver is a parental note. And then we need to come back to this policy, maybe after further review, engaging more folks, understanding how those 2 changes this year impacted attendance. And we may review this again in June. I see some head nods from my colleagues. All right.
Mr. Malone wants to know if you're dropping bereavement.
Bereavement. Yes.
Keeping bereavement or dropping.
Keep it. Thank you, Mr. Malone. Just checking. Appreciate it. We had a lot of discussion, so we had to make sure we got a lot of people listening to keep us on track. Thank y'all for bringing this. I did have one question. Was there any policies that you saw that were more generous than ours?
Well, I think the ones that allow people with Cs are certainly more generous, but most of them, this tracks pretty much the majority of the policies.
Okay. Again, thank you for this discussion. I think it's an important one to consider, especially we've heard so much from our students around this. So having more dialogue with educators as well as families to hear more of their thoughts in June will be helpful. All right. Thank you, Ms. Giovanni. We'll move back to you though for insurance program update.
Board policy requires that the risk management department bring to the board the insurance premiums every year. We go through a rigorous quoting process every spring. We start in June, usually January, mid-January, and our broker works with us and we have to pull all of our loss runs and then they send it out and get various quotes. And so ultimately, based on the quotes that we get, as well as the quality of the service of the insurance provider, we then bind coverage on June 30th of every year. And so what you have on the précis is showing what our premiums were. Our premiums for our policies were 1.6 million last year and are now nearly 2 million this year as a result of a 56% increase on property and boiler insurance. I am happy to report that our excess workers' compensation went down 26, a little over 26%. And this is for information pursuant to board policy. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank Mr. Paul Lazur for his assistance. Him and his team are critical in pulling together a lot of the financial pieces that we need. And we work collaboratively in doing this as well when we're going through the audit process. So thank you, Mr. Lazur. That's all I have. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Giovanni. Any questions from board members? Start off to Ms. Lewis. This is also just for information. So with no questions, thank you all. I'll take a motion to go into closed session.
Move that we go into closed sessions for the reasons stated in the agenda.
Second. Heard a lot of seconds. So it's moved by Ms. Valladares and seconded by Ms. Byer, I believe. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes 6 with 1 abstention. We are now in closed session.
Oh, shit. Okay. I didn't want to get excited.
We are now back in open session. Dr. Mabenga.
Madam Chair, I'm here to seek for your approval for the personnel report as discussed in the closed session.
Move approval of the personnel report dated September 28th, 2023.
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Byers, seconded by Ms. Chavez. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please use the same sign. It passes unanimously.
Madam Chair, I move that we go back into closed session. Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Byers, seconded by Ms. Chavez. Is there any other discussion? I will add for the public that adjournment will happen after this closed session. There will not be any more open session business. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please use the same sign. Passes unanimously. We'll go back into closed session.